Top five, top five, top five.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome to the countdown. We are a quarter way through the MLB season, which means we had to rank the biggest surprises so far in 2023.
And damn, Rob, it feels like the season just started and we're already a quarter of the way through. Baseball's really getting going. Teams are really starting to show who they truly are. Hopefully some of these teams on this list can turn it around, and hopefully some of the teams on this list that are playing really well can keep it going.
Right, it's time to separate the contenders from the pretenders, and a lot of surprises so far in this season, so we're really looking forward to get into this list.
But before we move on, make sure you smash that like button and damn sure subscribe to this channel, because we're going to drop some heat every single week, whether it's MLB, NFL, or NBA. We're going to keep it coming.
And before we get into the countdown, go check out Fan Gear Nation for some great jerseys.
Not only do they got jerseys, but they got canvases for the wall, shirts, sweatshirts, and all of this for the low. But don't worry, we still got y'all with a discount code.
That's right. This is PSO's official merchandise partner, so you can use code PSO15 for 15% off your first order. So go type in fangearnation.com while those low prices are still available. Support your favorite squad and save a good amount of money while doing it.
And now, back to the countdown.
So getting into the countdown, starting us off with number 5, we got Max Scherzer getting suspended for sticky substances on his hand. Brandon, if there was anyone before the season to have gotten suspended for something like this, the last person I think most people would have expected would be Max Scherzer, just because of his character, his gamesmanship, the veteran presence that he brings. He's all about doing the right thing and going about things the right way. And then to see an umpire say, he had the stickiest hand of all time, like, we're not here to say Max Scherzer was guilty of it. We don't know. You watching at home, you don't truly know. But, the league said that he did it. The umpires who are in charge of making that discretion and making that decision said he did it. So we have to assume, based on that evidence, that, he could possibly have done it. And it's just so surprising to see Max Scherzer, a 38-year-old who's gone through his whole career, likely doing it clean, likely doing it just based off pure energy and adrenaline that he brings to the game, now has this over his head.
And yeah, Rob, baseball has a clear checks and balances system. They bring all the referees in, they bring both the managers in, they do a really thorough check to make sure players are truly cheating and they're not doing false accusations.
Right.
And like you said, a huge surprise, Max Scherzer, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He's had more seasons with a sub-3 ERA than he has seasons over a 3 ERA. So, he's won plenty of Cy Young awards, truly one of the greatest pitchers of all time. And it's just crazy for somebody with this Hall of Fame resume to have to go down this route at this point in his career. But to be fair, he is 38 years old. He's having one of the worst starts to his career. So maybe he has, or maybe he's at the point where he does need a little advantage to take the edge off some of these batters that are really getting good contact against him.
I like a little controversy to add to the countdown here. So moving on to number 4, though, out of left field, we got Brent Rooker with the Oakland Athletics just absolutely crushing the baseball so far.
Yeah, he does play a little bit of left field, also DHs a lot, but like you said, crushing the baseball this year. Leads the league in slugging percentage, on base percentage, OPS, really the whole 9 yards. And he's really carrying an A's franchise that is clearly one of the worst teams in MLB this
Without
year.
a doubt.
I don't think that's changing. I don't think anybody is questioning that. Right. And yeah, the A's are really transitioning. They're about to move to Las Vegas, so they got a lot of new things coming. And Brent Rooker is looking like a surprising spot for this franchise going forward. He's 28 years old. He's moved from a lot of teams, been traded twice in the last 365 days. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can continue this momentum and hopefully turn into an all-star caliber season.
Yeah, it's crazy to see him become this kind of player. I don't think really anyone besides maybe his close friends and family expected something like this, but to see him go from, like you said, getting traded twice, then getting claimed this offseason by the A's, probably the best, waiver claim of the offseason for sure. But people should know, Brent Rooker, it wasn't like he came out of completely nowhere, because he was a top prospect in Minnesota's system. He did crush minor league pitching. He did show he has the tools to one day be successful. But then once he got to the bigs, he was dealing with adversity, had to go through some trials and tribulations, but finally found a home in Oakland. Maybe Las Vegas now that we're talking about it, though. So he could have been the new star, the new face of that franchise that desperately needs one as they make that transition to Nevada. And moving into number 3, we have, I knew I'd forget one. All right. And moving into number 3, we have a team who definitely came out of nowhere in the Pittsburgh Pirates. Many expected this team to be one of the worst in the league, but they surprised everyone by topping the NL Central so far, going on this hot streak to start the year despite a subpar roster. But when you look at it, a lot of players are exceeding expectations. I mean, going into the season, you thought O'Neal Cruz was going to be their best player. You thought Ke'Bryan Hayes would be one of their best players. O'Neal Cruz on the fucking IL. Ke'Bryan Hayes is, not hitting whatsoever at third base. He still needs time to develop, but players are stepping up in their place. Brian Reynolds, all this talk about him requesting a trade. Now he's going off for Pittsburgh. They got Andrew McCutchen, Carlos Santana, making these veteran acquisitions in the offseason that I think their purpose of doing it was to just, be this mentor leadership, bring some intangibles to the clubhouse, help these young guys get on pace. But they're actually contributing on the field too, and they're bringing that winning culture into Pittsburgh, into West Pennsylvania, and really helping this team become one of the more surprising teams so far this year.
Yeah, Rob, like you said, this team has faced some major injuries. O'Neal Cruz, G-Man Choi was supposed to be a major offseason acquisition. People thought O'Neal Cruz might be the best player on this team. Right. Yet this team has still found a way, 25% of the way through the season, to be a top 5 organization at this point. And that's surprising, not only with the injuries, but also the fact that PNC Park has been an abandoned ground for the last 10 years. They really haven't been good since Andrew McCutchen's first stint there. Thankfully, he's back. Like you said, they added more veterans as well. So Pittsburgh's really trying to turn things around, and they really wanted to prove to Ke'Bryan Hayes that they wanted to keep him here for a while. And after they started off to a great start, they wound up extending him, a major extension for Brian Reynolds. Not Ke'Bryan Hayes.
He might be the next one up.
Might be the next one up. So Pittsburgh got some quality young players. They did a good job mixing in some of those veterans. Hopefully the pitching can continue to do decent enough to keep the job done. But this is a surprising team. This is one of the NL Central's worst over the last 5 to 10 years, and they're in first place right now. So it'll be interesting what brews in Pittsburgh for the rest of the season.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it might be the Andrew McCutchen effect. Like you said, he was the face of that franchise, the NL MVP for that last contending team. Now he's back in Pittsburgh. He's actually one of the hottest selling jerseys on Fangear Nation right now, so you can get yours from Fangear Nation as well. Just one of the faces of the franchise that will always be a household name in Pittsburgh at PNC Park, helping bring those people back, and he's bringing the winning ways back as well.
Damn right. Andrew McCutchen's back. Pittsburgh's looking good. We'll see what the Pirates can do in that black and yellow.
Absolutely. So moving on to number 2, we got a 2-for-1 with struggling teams, probably the most disappointing teams of the year so far in the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, we just talked about the Pirates, who were probably in last place in the NL Central last year, and the St. Louis Cardinals were in first place last year, and the roles have completely flipped and reversed. And a major reason why is you saw from last year, a lot of the Cardinals' long-term players wound up retiring. Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, and Adam Wainwright's been hurt to this point in the year. So this team has had a lot of change and a lot of adapting that they're trying to do as they go into the next phase of this organization. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten off to a hot start. Wilson Contreras has really struggled behind the plate. They've actually moved him from being an everyday catcher to being more of an everyday DH. So this team has shifted some blame, and they're trying to sort things out and find a way to turn it around. But luckily, they have a terrible record, but they have not been playing awful, Rob. They had some close games. They found some ways to lose in situations they really probably should have won. So this team is really talented. They have some great arms. They have some great bats, just like they do in Chicago. Chicago has some really good arms, some really good bats. Their pitching, the starting pitching is doing awful.
Very talented team.
Very talented. Cease is doing awful. Lynn's doing awful. Some of the offseason acquisitions, Clevenger's not pitching well. So the whole top 5 of the rotation isn't doing well, besides Lucas Giolito. The batting lineup hasn't been doing well as well. Tim Anderson has been hurt for a portion of the season, which also contributed to that 10-game losing streak that they faced. So, if they didn't have that 10-game losing streak, maybe they could turn it around. But obviously, they've just been playing like trash, and they look like an awful team to start. Things aren't going well in Chicago on that side of town.
Yeah, 2 teams that I think had at least playoff aspirations. I think the Cardinals might have had even more. The White Sox have been a team who've had big aspirations over these last few years with all those top prospects that they had for the last 5 years now coming to fruition with Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, all these guys now getting regular play time, now entering their prime, supposed to be, the top of the league. And while they're playing well, the rest of the team just isn't. They just have holes everywhere, all over the diamond. The pitching staff, like you said, not coming to play. And then in St. Louis, you look at the production of the players, it's not that bad. The Paul Goldschmidt coming off the MVP. He's running it back. He's doing his thing. Nolan Gorman's having a great year so far. The pitching staff is struggling in the starting rotation, but the bullpen's been solid. So they have some things going for them. The White Sox are just fucking ass, though. I'm going to be honest. The White Sox, if you're a White Sox fan, I'm sorry. I'm just keeping it real with you. You shouldn't be buying playoff tickets right now. The Cardinals, on the other hand, I do think they have a chance to turn things around. I do think this team has a great young nucleus that's been together for a while, a manager that knows what he's doing. They lost those key veterans like Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols. It's going to require some time to adjust to that, to find the new leaders in the locker room, the new voices of the franchise. It should be Paul Goldschmidt, Noah Arenado stepping up, but he's had a down first month. But one thing we know about Arenado, he's been as consistent as they come his whole career. And so if anyone's going to turn things around, it's going to be Arenado. It's going to be that platinum glove winner at the hot corner that I'll always bet on. So I expect the Cardinals to turn things around, but to see them struggle so badly, to see the White Sox struggle so badly, definitely been a big surprise so far.
Yeah, the White Sox have absolutely no excuse for being this bad at this point. The Cardinals have almost every excuse to being bad. It's a major transition. You got to think about how long those players have been in place, been major voices in the clubhouse, and just to see them vanish, especially Wainwright being hurt at this point. He was the only one that wanted to stay and continuing to play. So they really have a chance to turn this around, and I think we'll see that as the season progresses.
Yeah, so they've been the disappointing teams, but at the number one surprise spot so far through a quarter of the season, we got the Baltimore Orioles. They've been balling in Baltimore. The bats have been doing their thing. The rotation has been disappointing, but at least better than what people thought, and that bullpen has been lights out. I mean, there are some guys back there that have been posting astronomical numbers when you look at it. And then, of course, we got to talk about Adley Rutschman, the catcher behind the plate, the number one overall pick, now entering the big leagues, and he's taking the league by storm. Right away, he's letting people know, I'm the guy. I'm going to be a future MVP. I might be the best catcher in the game already, and I'm letting people know Baltimore is here to stay. The AL East is a fucking frenzy right now with all 5 teams battling around 500 or better, and Baltimore right in the thick of things, already letting people know they could be a surprise, not just for the first quarter, but for the whole season.
Yeah, Baltimore tried to put teams on notice last year. They really turned the season around and had a big urge and a big surge to make it to the wild card last year. Obviously, they fell short, but they came into this year with a bang. And the problem in Baltimore has always been the starting pitching. And this offseason, they didn't do a good job of addressing that. They only made one move, and it wasn't even a well-known ace-caliber pitcher.
Right.
But they've always found a way to lean on home run, big bats, and really the relievers. And that's what they're doing again this year. Tyler Wells is a surprising starter that's really getting the job done. But, I mean, that bullpen's a problem. Felix Bautista, and they got a guy, Yanier Cano, who's a rookie this year. He started off the year with 16 innings, didn't give up 1 run, gave up 2 hits in his first 50 at-bats. I mean, dude's a 6'4", 245-pound tank. Yeah. He's a true problem. So they have a good bullpen, and they've always had good bats. They have a good nucleus with Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman. Hayes is playing really well, but they're getting some surprising play from very fast guys like Jorge Mateo, who's batting really well, stealing a whole bunch of bases. He's playing really well at shortstop, too. Right. Might be having a Gold Glove caliber year fielding. They're doing a really good job. We talked about other superlatives or surprising players like Yanier Cano, and they're just doing a good job overall, putting the ball on the bat, playing small baseball, stealing a lot of bases, doing good fielding, and just getting past those starting pitchers and just finding a way for the bullpen to shut it down and hitting the ball out the park. They're doing everything, and it's really surging in Baltimore. They got a beautiful park. Everything's looking good in Baltimore. They got a very bright future, and it came from 2018 to 2021. That was a bottom-dwelling team. They lost less than 60 games, I think 3 out of those 4 seasons.
Right.
And that's what trust the process. And now they have the number 1 farm system in baseball. It's added a lot of depth, especially in the batting lineup, and hopefully guys like Grayson Rodriguez, who's one of the top prospects, can turn it around. Guys like DL Hall. They got some really good arms in their farm system, and as the season progresses, we're going to see those guys get a lot more pitches in AA, AAA, and they'll eventually get called up, especially with the way the bottom of this rotation has started off the season.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing to know about the Orioles. It's not like they're being led by these star caliber players, these MVPs. Adley Rutschman could be a future MVP, but he's not there yet. But they have those guys on the way, like you said. Grayson Rodriguez, one of the best prospects in baseball, entering the season, could be a Rookie of the Year candidate once he figures things out. Gunnar Henderson struggling now, but he has all the makings of a all-star caliber third baseman. DL Hall, Adley Rutschman, they have a lot of core players to add to this group over the next coming years. So the Orioles might be surprising people with having the second best record through the first quarter of the season, but they won't be surprising people for long.
Not for long.
but those are the top 5 biggest surprises so far in the 2023 MLB season. It's been a lot of things we didn't see coming, but it's been great to watch it so far, and we look forward to seeing how the rest of the year unfolds.
Don't forget, the season's young. We're only 25% of the way through. Some of these teams that are surging might start to falter. Some of the teams that are faltering, like the Cardinals, might wind up surging and still finding a way to win the NL Central.
Definitely.
So it's going to be an interesting 162-game season. We're just getting started, and we can't wait to see how these teams progress and the way this season ends out.
That's right. So you can definitely expect another MLB episode of The Countdown coming soon. But until next time,
smash that like button and damn sure subscribe, because we're going to have crazy videos like this over and over and over again every single week.
No doubt. So we'll see you next time.
Catch y'all.